Hello and welcome back to Glastonbury Designs and Hobbies. In this video, we're going to go over some of the pieces that we've recently painted, as well as we're going to begin to assemble some of the undercarriage, including the front and rear end, the differentials. You'll see a couple of hiccups along the way, and we're also going to detail out the engine the best we can and get that to the next phase of this project. We're really beginning to close in on this, really starting to get excited about this build. As always, please like and subscribe to our channel, and I'm always blessed to share my hobby with you. Hope you enjoy the video. I just realized that I forgot to paint the rear end assembly of this vehicle. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a flat aluminum by Tamiya, and I'm painting the gas tank, and I do end up doing a little bit of work on the exhaust with the same color, and I begin to paint the rear differential that I forgot. Now, as I've mentioned a few times recently, I am just newly back at it, probably in the past 8 to 10 months. I am just learning. And when I make these videos, they are an expression of my art, and I'm attempting to share my building process with the entire modeling community uh, for the purposes of displaying my art pieces, and also if you can pick something up from me that you either want to do or you see something that might not work, you can eliminate that out of the build process. Um, that's my reasons for wanting to make these videos. Plus, I just enjoy the process of the edit and everything involved. I appreciate everybody that watches. And as you can see, I just painted the exhaust. All right, so what we're doing here is we're getting after the transmission. We're still using that flat aluminum by Tamiya, and that's a pretty good color match for probably what a transmission would look like. It does take me a little bit of time to get this painted up, so I thought I'd share a little bit more information with you about the Subaru Brat. When these vehicles were first imported into the country, they were imported as a light truck. That caused them to be assessed a 25% import tax, which from my research I found was referred to as a chicken tax. What Subaru did to alleviate or try to reduce their tax burden was they added the jump seats into the bed of the little truck, increasing the passenger capacity. What that allowed was them to reclassify the vehicle as a passenger vehicle, and that lowered their import tax from 25% to 2.5%. Okay, so we're finally coming to a close on painting up this transmission. I'll give you a look at it here in a second. Yeah, that don't look too bad. So what we're going to do is begin to put the front end assembly together. And I did this backwards from the directions purposefully. The directions indicated to put the engine in first and then the running gear. But there, as you can see, it's a big open frame, and there is no support there to hold the engine in place. So I felt the only option was to build it in reverse of the directions. This ultimately leads to a hiccup with the placement of the engine. Now, as we've gone over, we are using a General Motors color for this car. It's a forest green metallic. In 1978, when this car was first launched, it was offering 8 color options: light silver metallic, lake blue metallic, splendor red, twilight blue metallic, which I think probably was my favorite out of the color options, lucent gray metallic, gull gray metallic, liberty white, and champagne gold metallic. That one probably would have been a decent option as well. The Subaru Brat weighed in at 2,200 pounds, which was probably a significant amount of weight for that 1.6 liter engine with 71 horsepower to move around. Now, as you can see, when I just held up the engine there, I was showing you the part that we had to clip off, which is right in front of the nippers down there. That's the drive axle. We do get that reattached. We have to use a combination of the tweezers and the nippers to get everything in place and get it held. I have to fiddle with it a little bit, but it does reattach. And it's hooked in properly to where the CV joint would be, or the drive boots would be, hooking into the hub assembly for the wheel to be attached. Now, in 1978, when this vehicle was launched, it was classified as and marketed as a Subaru 1600 DL Brat, two-door 4x4. The original MSRP was $4,329. Now, with our production numbers at just under 100,000 for this country, this vehicle has become a little bit of a collector's item. They can average between 4,000 and 30,000 from a dealer in today's world. And the research that I've done did indicate that one was recently sold for $46,198. I don't know if that was a fully restored version or just a very well kept original version. Either way, that's a pretty significant increase in cost. Probably one of the more notable people or famous people who owned one of these vehicles was the former president, Ronald Reagan. He kept his all the way until 1998, when he decided that it was going to be donated for charity. I have not been able to find what charity event that was or what that car netted for that event. Hopefully, it was positive and worked out for everybody involved. Okay, so what I'm working with here is I'm trying to add detail to the fuel system. We've painted the carburetor and the intake gold, which is fairly accurate. I'm also giving you a look at it right there. I'm trying to add in the gas line, and that's like a little gas filter or gas sender that sits on top of the engine. I do run into a couple of little hiccups, and I have to fiddle around with it and get it set how I want it near the oil filler tube. But it does work out, and I think the car ends up looking pretty good, or the engine top ends up looking pretty good for the level of detail we progress out to during this video. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're cutting out lengths of solder. Now I'm going to use this solder for ignition wire coming out of the top of the engine. I bought 3 rolls when I bought this roll. It probably will last a lifetime. And it's bendable, it forms to whatever you want. It's easy to work with. We actually build the ignition wires out of this. We build the oil filler tube. All of the gas lines that you saw us put in are made from one roll or the other of solder. And the oil filter is made out of a larger piece of solder that I ordered. I received this tip through watching Grandpa Mark's Hobbies. It's a great channel. He puts on some great builds, some great tutorials. He explains how he does things and why he does things, the purpose behind it. If you haven't checked out his channel, it would be worth going over. There's good quality builds and good quality instructionals. Now here I'm just setting the ignition wire down into the engine, and I end up having to re-glue just a little bit um, because the hollow of the engine goes down in so far that the wire actually doesn't glue properly and it stays a little bit loose. But we take care of that with some Tamiya extra fine or Tamiya extra thin. Sorry about that. So what I'm doing here is I'm beginning to bend and shape the ignition wire around the other engine components as I feel like it should look. It's really easy to work with. I'm actually using the tweezers to put a 90-degree bend at the end of each ignition wire, which gives some indication of like a spark plug wire boot, which would have been attached from the ignition wire to the top of the distributor cap that we made. This is a great tip. I'm very happy with how this performs, and I'm very happy with the look of it. I can't say enough about Grandpa Mark's hobbies for putting that tip out to everyone. As you can see here, we have the driver's side of the engine done. The plug wire does take a bit of time if you want to do it correctly, but the entire hobby takes a little bit of time if you want to do it correctly. I'm not sure that I'm the authority on how to tell you to do it correctly, but I do enjoy sharing my process, and I feel like this is a process that is well worth it. The outcome of the engine is the reward for the amount of time that we're spending together on this model. So what we're working on here is we are getting the breather tubes going from the valve covers up to the air intakes. And that's roughly where I think it's supposed to go based on the reference photos that I've looked at. We've gone ahead and we've painted the ignition wire yellow, and these breather tubes get a coat of black paint. I feel like that's probably the proper way to go. And you just saw me pull one of those tubes. I was quite lucky because the glue didn't dry up as fast as it could have. And it wasn't sitting just right. I wasn't quite happy with it. So I go ahead and I re-drill that opening. And I drill just a little bit deeper. Everything's a process, and everything is worth the time. I'm trying to put just a nice gentle bend in the tube right there, clipping it off to the approximate length. My preference when I build these is to have the bends be more gentle or easy curved versus I don't really want a kink or a joint in that tube, as that's mainly designed just to transport air through. Now, in the next build update coming down the road here, we will build the hoses for the heater system, and those do have some tight bends in them and a couple of 90-degree joints. You can't see it in this build, but I've already installed the little piece that leads out of the engine or the water pump, and it's actually on that side. You just can't tell because it's painted black at this time. I haven't made a determination if it's going to stay black or if we're going to paint it an aluminum color. I'll have to take a look at my reference photos yet again. And it would appear that I've gotten ahead of myself a little bit, or I've reversed the videos because now we're just painting the ignition wire yellow. I think what I've probably done is reversed it out, but everything is set into place and timed at this point, so we'll just leave it how it is, and you can enjoy the build process. And there we go. They're coming out pretty nice. Even if I did reverse the clips, uh, ultimately it comes out, the engine comes out really nice. Very happy with the build. Very happy with you as my viewers. I thank you for being here. If you haven't yet, I would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel. Maybe give this video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment if you have anything that you want to share or if you have any questions. And until we see each other again, everybody out there be safe and everyone be blessed. Thank you for watching.